welcome back. Well, there's been a ruling in the Western Cape High Court that says if someone is a foreign parent or a foreign caregiver for a child and their relationship with the South African spouse comes to an end, they can still remain in the country. In other words, as I understand it, if a person is living here because their spouse is a South African, if that relationship comes to an end, they do not have to leave the country if they're the caregiver of a child. Courtney Elson is an associate at the law firm Adams & Adams. Courtney, good afternoon to you. Who does this apply to? What does the ruling actually mean?
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me today. If I can give you a quick overview of the judgment, in a very short summary of the matter, there were certain provisions of the Immigration Act as well as the regulations which were declared unconstitutional. So previously, where you had a situation of a foreign parent who was in South Africa on the basis of a spousal visa, but that spousal visa was automatically terminated because their relationship with their South African spouse or partner had come to an end. The foreign parent would therefore be forced to leave South Africa and get their affairs in order and apply for a new visa to be legally present in South Africa. As a result of the judgment, foreign parents and caregivers, as you mentioned, shall now be allowed to remain in South Africa even after the termination of that relationship with their South African spouse, and they would be allowed to continue to manage their affairs from within the borders of South Africa and obviously then continue to carry out their parental rights and responsibilities in respect of those children. So this is indeed a groundbreaking judgment, especially considering the adverse effects that children would have as a result of their parents having to leave the country.
Well, I mean, I can just imagine a messy relationship, or a relationship coming to a messy end and divorce, and the one partner says to the other, if I put in my divorce papers, you will have to leave the country. I mean, that's a huge amount of power. It would mean that one partner would end up with sole custody of the child.
Yeah, it's actually unthinkable to think that a child would end up in a country almost alone, not completely alone, but having been removed from what was familiar, their family environment. And as we know, divorce is already quite a stressful and traumatizing experience for children, and that's what let's take it to the next level.
So this is a High Court order. Are you expecting Home Affairs, I presume it's them, to appeal this, or do you expect the law to actually now be changed? Because I think they've got 2 years to change the law.
Yes. So Home Affairs did oppose the application, saying that there were justifiable reasons why there were certain limitations placed in the Immigration Act and the regulations thereto. The judge in the matter found that they were not justifiable limitations, and it was in fact a violation of dignity and of equality and children's rights, and as well as parental rights in the Constitution. Whether or not Home Affairs is going to appeal is something that I cannot answer, but the interim arrangements have been suspended for a period of 24 months, which means that in the interim they will be read in, and simply put, that means that it is going to be as if those invalid provisions in the Act and regulations have already been amended, and Parliament will then be allowed the opportunity to amend those provisions formally. So for the time being, in the next 24 months, all foreign ex-spouses will be able to continue to live and work in the country and discharge their parental rights and responsibilities while they try and make alternative visa arrangements to remain here legally on maybe a visitor's visa or a relative visa.
So they would be able to work. I mean, this is a key thing. That's what the law says. They would be able to work
now. Yes, absolutely. And I think that's what's so important about the judgment, is that they can continue to work, because without continuing to work, it would almost be impossible for them to discharge their parental responsibility of maintenance.
Okay, so what happens in this scenario then, and I realize that this is a new judgment, so not everything will have been thought through, there might still be more law to come on this, but if someone enters a relatively short-term relationship, say 2 years, has a child in the interim, the relationship ends. Now this is a foreign national, the child is South African, had the child with a South African spouse. The relationship ends. Can that person stay in the country for 50 years because they had a child here?
So what I must mention to you is that the applicants in the various matters that were before the court had the following things in common. So they had all had children with their South African spouses. Their children were South African citizens, either because they were born in South Africa or because they obtained citizenship from the South African parent. They had been living and working in South Africa for quite a number of years already before having that child or being in that relationship. And the other very important thing which the court highlighted, is that they were involved and supportive parents who fulfilled their parental rights and responsibilities with the co-parents, both during the relationship they had as well as after the termination thereof. So we are not looking at a situation where it is just any foreign person that has parented a South African child that will be allowed to remain in the country. There are obviously going to be certain factors and loopholes that they'll or hoops that they will have to jump through. And one, I think, being that they will need to have been a supportive parent and who had been already fulfilling those rights and responsibilities which they have in terms of their children.
How on earth does a court determine if someone has been fulfilling their parental responsibilities?
The Children's Act does go into, who has parental rights and responsibilities and what exactly they involve. So that will be something the court will look into.
Courtney
And
Elson.
obviously, also depending on the age of the children.
Courtney Elson, thank you, and Associated Adams & Adams. I do appreciate the time.